How do I receive without overload? And how do I purge without collapsing into a story that something is wrong with me? We offer you a simple principle that you can return to again and again, and it is the principle we have already placed gently in your hands. Receive first, integrate second, speak third. When you reverse this order, you scatter yourself. When you receive and immediately speak, you often broadcast before you have metabolized, and then you feel exposed, and then you seek more information to stabilize, and now you are in a loop. When you receive and integrate before you speak, something changes. The insight calms down, it gets simpler, it becomes usable, it stops needing to be defended, and it begins to feel like wisdom, rather than like a spark that could burn you if you hold it wrong. Integration, dear ones, is not an abstract spiritual concept. It is a biological process. This is why we keep bringing you back to the body, because the body is not less spiritual than the mind. The body is the place where spirit becomes livable. When the field is high signal, the body needs rhythm more than it needs explanation. Rhythm looks like hydration, nourishing food, sunlight when you can, movement that is gentle enough to be sustainable, and sleep that is protected as much as your circumstances allow. Rhythm also looks like reducing inputs when you are full. Many of you have been trained to consume information as a way of feeling oriented, yet in a corridor like this, too much information can become disorientation, because the system cannot tell the difference between I am receiving guidance and I am being stimulated, unless you slow down enough to feel the difference. We invite you to choose capacity over consumption. You do not need more inputs to be safe. You need more coherence to be clear. And coherence is built through very small choices that your ego may dismiss as insignificant. A slow exhale before you answer a message. A pause before you forward something. A moment of silence after a conversation so your nervous system can close the energetic tab. A decision to turn off background noise for an hour so your own inner tone becomes audible again. Writing down what you are feeling instead of looping it in your mind. Drinking water before you interpret your mood. These are not glamorous practices, but they are powerful in high signal seasons because they teach your system a new baseline. I can feel intensity without becoming intensity. I can receive information without becoming a broadcast tower. I can notice emotion without turning it into identity. We also want to normalize something else. In a purging and receiving corridor, emotion can move quickly, and when emotion moves quickly, the mind often tries to explain it quickly, and that is where overload is born. We invite you to allow emotion to be what it is, movement. Tears can be movement. Fatigue can be movement. Irritation can be movement. A sudden need to rest can be movement. A strong desire to clean your space can be movement. If you treat every movement as a message you must decode immediately, you exhaust yourself. If you treat movement as a release and let it pass through with kindness, you often find that clarity arrives afterward, naturally, quietly, like the sky clearing after weather. This is why we say, let symbols stay symbols for a while. Let dreams be dreams for a while. Let sensations be sensations for a while. Forced conclusions muddy the water, and your system is learning to carry cleaner water now. One of the most helpful ways to work with this is to build what we would call a container, because containers are what keep higher bandwidth from spilling into chaos. Your first container is your body. Breath, posture, relaxation of the jaw and belly, gentle grounding. Your second container is your space. A cleared corner, softened lighting, reduced clutter, a place to sit that feels calm. a small area that your nervous system recognizes as safe. Your third container is your schedule. Fewer promises, more honest pacing, spaciousness between tasks, and permission to say not today without needing to justify it with a crisis. When these three containers are tended, the same downloads that would have overwhelmed you become nourishing because they have somewhere to land. And we want to speak directly to the temptation that arises in many spiritual communities during windows like this, the temptation to turn receiving into a competition, or to turn purging into a badge, or to turn intensity into proof that you are advanced. Dear ones, that is not the path. The path is simpler and kinder. The path is becoming a stable receiver who can live a loving life in a changing world. A receiver who can be clear without becoming rigid, open without becoming porous, informed without becoming frightened, and connected without becoming entangled. If you measure yourself by spectacle, you will always feel behind. If you measure yourself by coherence, how quickly you return to your heart, how gently you treat your nervous system, how honestly you speak, how cleanly you participate in the collective field, you will feel yourself evolving in a way that is steady and undeniable. So if you are purging, bless it as completion. If you are receiving, bless it as guidance. If you are tired, bless it as recalibration. If you are emotional, bless it as release. If you are suddenly clear about something you can no longer carry, bless it as truth surfacing. And if you find yourself overwhelmed, do not shame yourself. Simply reduce inputs, return to breath, return to water, return to the simplest grounding actions, and remember that your worth is not determined by how much you can process in one day. The field is not asking you to sprint, it is asking you to stabilize. Because what is happening underneath all of this, and this is the most important thread to hold, is that you are being prepared for a way of living where coherence becomes the currency. In that way of living, your attention matters more than your opinion. Your nervous system matters more than your arguments. Your integrity matters more than your performance. And your ability to remain present matters more than your ability to predict. This is what makes the receiving feel urgent sometimes. The deeper self knows that something is launching, and it wants you ready, not with fear, but with steadiness. And this is why the next section of our transmission naturally emerges now. Because once you understand how to purge and receive without overload, you are ready to understand what the massive shift actually means in lived reality, how it expresses in relationships, in choices, in timelines that begin to separate, not through drama, but through capacity, and how the corridor turns into a runway as the direct station approaches and the new routing becomes usable.